All right, what up, what up, what up, what up? You already know what to do. It's your boy B-Phil back again. Time to learn something new. Let's jump right into it. Yeah! So today we're going to be talking about Mirascope. On the framework journey, we find another LLM toolkit, as they say. So Mirascope is an intuitive approach to building with LLMs. Mirascope is a Python toolkit for building with LLMs. Developing LLM applications with Mirascope feels just like writing Python code you're already used to, right? That's important. It's important to see who they're marketing to, the Python code you're already used to. So just remember, when you're actually using this library, you should be used to Python. And I think that's very much important, or you should get used to the Pythonic way because it's going to use a lot of constructs, and we'll see that as we look at this actual toolkit. Let's say library, it's a toolkit. So first and foremost, you remember this, pip install Mirascope. It's as simple as that. So let's just go ahead and jump into the code, and you already know what it is, right? I hope you do. So first, you want to go ahead and initialize that virtual environment, Python. Them, right? Boom. Once you initialize that, you want to go ahead and source that. Python, them, bin, activate. Boom. Once you do that, then you want to go ahead and pip install Mirascope space python.env. All right, great. So once you have all of that installed, you want to go ahead and go to Anthropic. As always, go to this console.anthropic.com/dashboard. Get you an API key because you already know what to do. We're going to use Anthropic because they're just the hottest kid on the block, in my opinion. Debate me. I don't think OpenAI is. So anyways, let's not get too far away from the actual point here. So first, we want to talk about the base level constructs of Mirascope. And really, I want to go to their website and just show you on their API reference page. They show you here, and they show you all the different bases that they have. So you have a base call, right? Base extractor, base prompt, and these are all just the base implementations of what is going on here. And I really wanted to show you this because if you're a Python person and you think these LLM frameworks on the market aren't well documented, this one is very simple and well documented. I want to stress that enough. Whether you take my opinion or not, the documentation for this is great because they show you how they got to whatever class they're getting to from these particular base calls. And of course, you can go ahead and look at getting started. And it really highlights this example of co-location. I think this is brilliant where it has all the information in one place. And if you've logged LLM information or any information in general, you want to know what the inputs and the outputs are at any particular point. And the more information you have on that particular call and everything surrounded by it, the better conclusions you can come to because you understand all of the context. So co-location, it's one of the core tenets of their philosophy. Everything that can impact the quality of a call to an LLM from the prompt, model, temperature must live together. And that's what I mean, right? Like you have all of the context around any particular run. All right, so all the background's done. Let's jump into the code. Yes, the code. All right, so we're going to go ahead and import the base prompt from Mirascope. Then we're going to go ahead and create a customer classification, and this is going to be of type base prompt, or really class base prompt, so it's going to inherit base prompt. I said too many words there, but you get what I'm saying. And then we're going to go ahead and specify the property of prompt template, given customer information in business industry, classify the customer into one of the categories. And you can see we give the customer information and the actual industry. Then we go ahead and specify other additional properties, these are going to be the inputs into this particular class, right? So customer information, which is a string, and then industry, which is a string. Next, we're going to go ahead and initialize this class. So customer information, Brandon is a cool guy who loves dogs. And then of course, the industry is the cat e-commerce store. And then we're going to go ahead and print these messages here. So let's go ahead and do this. And let's run this Python-based stuff. And as you can see, it does give you out the messages array or messages list as you would expect it for most of the LLM providers, right? They take some type of messages and then it's a list of role, whether it's user, assistant, system, and then the content that you're going to have that particular role tied to. So it gives you that out. And going back to the core tenets here. So if we go to the concepts here, they say no magic. And this is really true because ultimately what they want you to do when you go to through their documentation, they show you how, and even in this base prompt, right, it's not magic and they don't want it to be. So prompt template magic is optional. So you can just override this method here, messages, and you can go ahead and implement it in the proper way. Cool? Hope so. Great. So let's go ahead and go back to the code. And we ran this. So that's just the base if you want to go ahead and utilize this library for prompts. And of course, you can just build these prompts, put them in a file, reference them across your different programs or this program that you're building here. Or you can simply use this with your favorite version control software, probably Git, and version control your prompts over time. So very powerful, very useful. Next, we're going to go to actually calling the LLM. So to do that, we need what they call base call, right? When I say we need base call, that is what is under the hood of what we're going to use, which is Anthropic call. So we have Anthropic call. We're going to go ahead and load our dot environment. And then, of course, we're going to have this computed field so that we can go ahead and do a property as a method. We'll see that in a bit. So let's load the environment. Then we're going to go ahead and create that same customer classification, but now it's going to be an Anthropic call. And we're going to go ahead and pass the same prompt template, but this time we're adding classifications, right? As we did in previous demos. So customer information is a string, industry is a string, and classifications are a list of strings. And this is powerful because we can just pass that list of strings. We don't have to cast it as we previously had to because the LLM expected a string and the function expected a string. Now we have this where we have this property and we can just say that it's going to be a list of strings. All right, then we specify our information. Brandon loves dogs and parrots, but doesn't have an affinity towards cats industry. You can use a better variable here, of course, always. But for now, this is e-commerce store that sells cat toys, and then classifications are best, mid, and worst. Next, we're gonna go ahead and initialize this class. So we're gonna go ahead and pass in this information, the previously specified variables. And then we're gonna go ahead and call this. So we're gonna go ahead and say, we're gonna dump that output. Now let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. So we're gonna go Python base calls. We're gonna run that. Great. So let's go ahead and look at what we got. So based on the given customer information in the industry being an e-commerce store that sells cat toys, the customer branded would likely be classified as worst in this case. And then it gives us reasoning. And as we saw before, it's just going to give us plain text. If we wanted to pass this to another system to do something with, right, we'd have to do some regex parsing, and we may not want to do that. We'll see how Mirascope does that in a bit, but you can see, therefore it does this. And then this part here is what I wanted to show you, this dump. And this is going to go ahead and give you all of the input to this particular call. So you can see the template that we use and the actual input. So customer information, the industry, right? It goes ahead and gives us all of that, which is really, really nice to have built in all in one place. So next, let's go ahead and move on to the next part where we go ahead and do a list selector. So now we've classified our customer. We want to add them to email list, right? You know, we want to send them some of our newsletters and make sure that they understand the quality of our cat toys. Or the cat toys of this particular store. So we're going to go ahead and specify a list selector. Now, what I want to show you is the actual chaining construct within Mirascope. Now, again, this is something that's just inherent in how classes work within Python, but they've implemented this in a way where it's quite smooth. So we're going to go ahead and define a prompt template, and now list selector is going to be of customer classification. So this customer classification that we specified up here, that's what it's going to be. And so that gives us some nice property or attributes, or just gives us some good things that we can do. AKA, we can go ahead and reference all the information in the previously defined class, So we go ahead and say, given customer classification, business industry, add the customer to the given email list best fitted to the customer preferences. Then we go ahead and pass in the classification and then the industry. So you see here, we go ahead and specify these properties, industry, email list, right? It's a list of strings. And then we see that good old call params where we're going to go ahead and set the max tokens to 4,000. Next, we're going to use the trusty dusty computed field, And we're going to go ahead and compute this customer classification. And this is going to be a property that's going to be referenced here inside of the prompt of list selector. So we're just going to go ahead and return this customer classifications, right? And the beauty here is we can say self customer information, and we can pass in what this particular class expects. So we get the actual properties from the previous class, which is absolutely beautiful. Then we're going to go ahead and, of course, pass in the rest that the previous class needs. We're going to call it, and then we're going to get the content from that. And that content is then going to be passed here, right? Which is amazing. So let's go ahead and get this email list. It's a list of different email lists we want to add to. And then we have a list call, right? So let's go ahead and initialize that. And then we go ahead and pass in the customer information, the industry, the classifications, and the email list, right? We've overloaded this quite some bit. And then we go ahead and get the output. And then we're going to print the output in a dump. So let's go ahead and run that one more time. We're going to go ahead and maximize this. And you see it's running twice, right? So you have 2 calls. And then you have a dump here. Okay, so based on, okay, great. It's going to say the worst. As we'd expect, Brandon is the worst to buy from a cat store because he loves those dogs. Arf, arf, arf. And you can see ends here, and it gives us a nice little dump of the first call, right? First call, which is the customer classification. Then we get the second call. Given the customer classification in the business industry, it is best not to add Brandon to any email list for the e-commerce store that sells cat toys. So it's saying if these little lists are related to this actual store, then we don't want to add to any of these lists. And that's fair, right? To alleviate this, we want to go ahead and give clearer instructions to the LLM via this prompt template so that it can go ahead and complete the task. But for now, we can see that we have these 2 calls, and then we can look down here inside of this dump, and you can see it gives us the template, right? The email list, and then it's going to go ahead and give us the inputs. And we can see that it gives us the output of the previous call here for that particular property. So you can see right here at the customer or the classifications right here. So best, mid, worst, and then it's going to go ahead, the customer class based on the information, yada, 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 all that good stuff. So now we can see everything in one place for that particular call. Now we want to go ahead and move on to the final step. Now we want to go ahead and get this more structured, and structured output is useful to go ahead and integrate with other systems, of course. So we're going to go ahead and use the constructs that Mirascope exposes called extractors. So first we're going to go ahead and import Anthropic call params and then the Anthropic extractor. Now this inherits from base extractor as you would expect, right? Next, we're going to go ahead and do the load.env, the typings, and of course our base model for Pydantic. We're going to load the environment. We're going to go ahead and specify a Pydantic model now. So we want to go ahead and get some list output. So we're going to pass in the email list that it should select from. And then we're going to go ahead and expect to give us an explanation. Then we want to have our customer output, right? This is for our classification. We're going to go ahead and pass in or give it some literals to select from inside of our classification, right? So first, we're going to go ahead and define customer classification. This is going to be an Anthropic extractor of type customer output, right? So it's an extract customer output from whatever particular input we're giving it, right? Or whatever question we're passing to the LLM. What this particular class expects is an extract schema property. So we're going to go ahead and declare that with the type customer output equals customer output. Then we're going to go ahead and specify the prompt template. And if you see here, we're only passing the industry and the customer information. We're not passing the actual classification list anymore. Next, we're going to specify the customer information, which is going to be string, industry, which is going to be a string. Then we go ahead and specify our list selector, which is going to be, again, an Anthropic extractor of type list output. We're going to specify the extract schema to be this list output as well. Next, we're going to go ahead and create the prompt template. We're going to pass in the customer classification. So we're going to, if you see here, this is going to be this model customer output. We're going to pass in the industry, and of course, we're going to do some call params as well. make those max tokens 4,000. Next, we have our information that we want to pass into the LLM. Then we're going to go ahead and specify customer classification, pass it the industry and the customer information, and then we're going to get some particular output. So let's go ahead and look at that right now. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to run this like this. And we're just going to go ahead and see it over here. And so you can see customer output classification works. As you would expect, it's going to give us nice structured output where we can just get this classification, and then we can go ahead and put it in some of our systems in a nice structured, expected way. So that's great. All right, we're going to print the dump as well. Next, we have our list call. We're going to go ahead and initialize the list selector with the customer classification, which is our output from the previous call. And we're going to pass in the industry. Then we're going to extract that list from there, and then we're going to dump that as well. All right, so let's go ahead and run that down here. I'm going to say Python extract stuff. And you can see classification works and explanation. It actually ran pretty quickly. And then, of course, dog and parrot list. So it said, hey, Brandon is the worst customer for a cat list. We gave it some other lists that it can potentially be put on. Obviously, inside of this example, the customer information, Brandon loves dogs and parrots. So it selected those for us. And we can see how we could utilize structured output really to go ahead and pass to the model what we expect for it to select out from a list. So that is going to be it. There is actually, that's not it. I take that back. There's one more construct I want to show you here, and that's going to be tags. So we're going to go from Mirascope, and we're going to import tags. And the reason why I want to show you this is because inside of this dump, it may be useful to you when you go ahead and have all of these logs in your system to be able to filter in a particular way. And tags can certainly help you do this. So we're going to go ahead and say @tags, and we're going to set this. I'm going to say tags equals list. Let's say a list. All right, so we'll say list classification. Right, we'll just keep that there. So now what we can do is we can run this one more time, and what we'll see is inside of that dump, we will have these tags, so then we can filter by those in our backend system, which is super handy. So you see it goes ahead and put these tags here, and you can do this for all of these classes that you specify for Mirascope. So hopefully you learned something, y'all. And go ahead and hit that like button or dislike if you thought this wasn't useful. Hit the comments and let me know what you want to see more of and what you thought, right? What else could we go ahead and build so that we can get more use cases out there so that people can go ahead and get the benefits of these toolkits. And last, but certainly not least, y'all, I can't stress this enough. I'm building up to it. Don't just sit there and watch me. Go build something. It's your boy B Phil. I'm out. Peace.